Live.
Meeting is now streaming live on Facebook.
Yeah, on Book Place.
Excellent.
Yeah. Okay. So here we are. We are live on Book Place. Let me.
One of my favorite sites.
Yes, we are live on Book Place. This is, hi everyone, this is Anthony Moirore, the admin of Book Place and also the author of Be Good for Good, stories of goodness with lessons on life. And I am glad to be here. Today we have one new episode that is, that we are going to be starting now. And we'll be having as many guests as we can. And today we are blessed to be having the very first person live with us, Joanne Reid. Hi, Joanne.
Hi, how are you, Tony?
I'm good, thank you. So this is the author's journey. And we know you're an author, but we need to get to know you here and there. Myself, I'm from Kenya. Although I'm not in Kenya right now, I'm in Athens, Greece. Where are you from?
Well, I'm originally from Boston in Massachusetts,
yeah.
But now I live in Chicago, in the middle of the United States.
Oh, that's wonderful. Chicago. I used to hear Chicago when I was quite young, when I used to follow Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan. That was something I used to really follow. So maybe sometime.
He was pretty good, wasn't he?
Yeah, oh sure. He was, I mean, they say he's a legend. He's a legend. Yes. So yeah, he was good, and he still remains good in the things that he's doing. So yeah, tell us much more about you as the author. Now, whatever you feel good to tell us.
Well, first off, I'm retired. Okay. So I have time to do things. Now, I started out writing, of course, many years ago. I was silly. You have to write. It's one of those things that you have to do it. Your fingers must write. Yeah. And so I had a series of books out 25, 30 years ago now that were techno thrillers. Yeah. And they were technical successes. That is, everyone who read them loved them, but there are only about 36 people who read them. So okay. I went back to school and finished off my doctorate. And so I went into all sorts of research areas. Yeah. And a girlfriend of mine was in the middle of writing. Yeah. And she needed some editing work done. So I was editing for her. Mm-hmm. And then her writing was absolutely abysmal. It was horrible. It was wonderful for business. Okay. But it was all of this passive voice stuff and everything. And so I said, so I started rewriting it. Yeah. And she said to me, really, why don't I edit your work and you do the writing? So that's how all of this started. And this is, some 10 years ago now. Yeah. And then I was writing along and she was editing and I was writing and she was editing. And then she had a stroke. Okay. Oh, and so we worked a little bit more. And then she had the temerity to die, leaving me 2 chapters into a monster book. And I will never forgive her for dying. She could have waited another 6 months.
Yeah, good one. Yeah, so,
I wrote this huge book.
Yes, even before we come to the huge book, I think you started a bit high because there's something that maybe those who are aspiring to be writers don't have a clue. And I don't know, are writers born or they are made? But we got a sense of it when you said it started when you were taking over some work. So are writers born or they are made?
Great question. I think writing is sort of one of those things you were born with. Yeah. But you don't have to. A lot of good writers are method writers, like they're method actors. They get into a role and they study it and they really work hard at it and that kind of thing. And then there's folks like me that just sort of start. You start it and you really don't know where it's going and you let the keyboard guide you where it's going to go. And both ways are very successful. Yeah. It's just that how do you work it into it? Now, you still have to have the drive to be a writer, which is a silly thing to do. You really don't want to. It's an all-consuming thing. It becomes a passion. The book that you write becomes your child, and you're very protective of it. And then you give it to an editor who rips it apart, and you want to rip them apart because they have attacked your baby. But again, none of us are good editors.
Yeah.
All of us might think we are, but we're not. And so once you get all of this process down, then you get into the terrible part of trying to get it published. And this is awful. This is all consuming. You bring your book and you send it out to agents, and the agents go, "Thank you very much for your submission, but it's not quite what we're looking for at this time. Now, why don't you resubmit it in 6 months?" And you go through 100, maybe 200 different sites, and you get the same thing. And then you try to go to publishers, and publishers say to you, "Well, I'm sorry, you're not an agent, so we're not going to talk with you." And then there are the other publishers who are vanity publishers who say, "Oh, wonderful, please send me $5,000. And you go, "I don't have $5,000.
I've met them.
Oh, yes. Haven't we all?
Yeah, we've met them.
And then so you end up with the position that you're going to have to publish it yourself.
Yeah.
And so where do you end up? You end up with Amazon. Why? Because they're the big ones. They're the elephant in the room, so you can't ignore them. And ultimately you get to other places like Ingram, and you get to places like Lulu and things like that. But you end up becoming your own marketer. And so you spend all of your time marketing. That is, you're going on Facebook. Okay, here we are, we're on Facebook, and you're giving out ads, and you're building new advertisements, and you're putting them on Facebook pages, and you're going out to these other sites who say, "Well, we would love to advertise your book, but it has to be free." And you say to them, "Wait, I would like some money too. If it's free, how is this helping me?" And then you get into a little bit of the Amazon thing about whether or not there's going to be a free book. But again, it becomes a rat race for you as a marketer, and now you can't write. But what does a writer do? A writer writes. And you're trying to continue your stories or get a new one out there. And so the whole idea is just a silly thing to do. And anyone who wants to be a writer, I'm going to suggest they don't do it.
Good one. Now let's go back a bit. Your friend left you with your a book to make, to write. That's the time that you were starting. How did it all come that you got started exactly? I mean, did you apply? Did you do all those things you were talking about, submitting and getting a rejection, and then finally you decided to do it yourself, or how did it go?
How do I go about all this process?
I mean, from the time that your friend left, whom you are not going to forgive for leaving you, for dying before her time.
Sorry, my ear is not picking up your words. Well.
I'm saying your friend left you when the book was not complete, and you are not going to forgive her for dying before it was done. So how did it get started? How did you publish that, your first book?
How do I publish? I was one of those folks who recognized that I was terribly ignorant. So I went online and actually took courses in how to publish and how to do all of this correctly. And again, what is the process that you have to go through as a self-published author? But you have to let everyone know that you're going to be publishing a book. And so you get into this one step at a time. You make an announcement. Again, Facebook is a wonderful place to do it. And in fact, if you go to Book Place, it's a wonderful spot where you can put in discussion and put in advertisements and everything else. And there's this really nice fellow out there that lets you do it. And his name is Tony, by the way. And so you build it up. You try to build up excitement. And during that process, you ask people to be early readers. That is, you're going to provide them with the copy of the work that you're going to be publishing, so that they can read through it and help you edit it. And this is far less expensive than going to a professional editor, because if you have 10 or 15 people who are early reading your book, every single editor ever is going to be caught by at least one of them, maybe even 2 or 3. And so you get to go back and do some editing. And they're also ready at that point to purchase. So you go through all the long process of setting up your book and getting it into Amazon or whatever.
Yeah.
And all the time you're advertising it. You know, there's only 10 days to go, 9 days to go, 8, and then you announce that it. And what you try to do is you try to set it up so that the first few days are really inexpensive. They could be free. They could be 99 cents, but you want the first few days to be really free so that those people who were your early readers can get that book for low cost.
Okay.
They purchase the book, and then you ask them, of course, to review the book in Amazon.
Yeah.
And then you go through the process of thanking them, getting them the gifts that you had promised them and all that kind of stuff. And at that point, going through the usual thing with Amazon. Now, there are some tricky parts to it.
Yeah.
The Amazon process is actually pretty straightforward. You get in there and register it, and there's a 3-step process, and they'll guide you right through it.
Yeah.
The question is always one of being properly edited, and books out there really, so many of them are poorly edited. When you start reading a book, you're really looking for a flow of words in whatever language you're dealing with.
Yeah.
And if there's misspellings, the first couple of them, you know, but if it's continually misspelling, there's a problem. And malaprops and synonyms that aren't quite correct are getting, and then punctuation and paragraphs and all these kinds of things that a reader has to have in order to read a book. And these things are just atrocious errors. So sort of the things that you should have learned in 6th grade, 8th grade, early high school, these are important in writing. The other aspect is a cover. A cover is incredibly important. There are cover people out there. You can go out and find them, just splash around. I did mine with 100 covers. Now, I had a lot of input into it. I had an idea of what I wanted to do. So, for instance, here's the first book. Let me get it in focus here. Notice that my idea was that I would have my my hero, actually heroine. Her name is Joanne. And this, you see the castle in the background, and then this fellow. And over the course of the 3 books, the fellow and the girl would become closer and closer and closer together, so that we could see that there's a love story here. It's hiding inside of the fantasy novel. But the covers bring this out to you one step at a time.
So,
and then you've got to write a blurb.
What is your genre? I mean, basically, what do you write about?
The covers themselves?
No, I mean the books. What is your genre?
The book itself is ready for this? It's an epic fantasy. It's a romance, and it's game lit. Now, game lit says essentially the characters get caught in a computer simulation, but not quite. That is, the person who gets caught into it doesn't know that they're in a game. And there's no relationship to it. It doesn't come back and do any of the things. So in my case, a guy named Tony, he's a late, exactly, but he's older than you are. So he was in his late 50s, but he was a gamer. And he volunteered to play this really exciting new virtual reality game. Except he ends up on another world. And he ends up as his avatar. And his avatar is a beautiful elf queen. So all of a sudden, he's in a different world. He's an avatar of a woman, and he still thinks he's in a game. And so the first chapter, he's going, "This is marvelous. What is this? Wow. Is my computer big enough to do this? What kind of graphics are those? Oh, look at that." And finally, at the end of the first chapter, he goes, "Wait a minute. This is real." And the whole thing it revolves around a prophecy that someone from the outside world is going to come and bring about the destruction of the evil avatars. I mean, Adjudicars. So the Adjudicars they're bad guys, and he's going to conquer them. And once he does, he can go home. But of course, there's the love story in there, which complicates everything. So at the end of it, if and when he wins, does he really want to win? Because she is now in love with the prince, but if she goes on, and so it becomes very complicated there, and that leads into the second series.
Okay, so that story is in the 3 books. I mean, it's a trilogy.
I just lost your sound.
My sound is not good.
Go ahead.
Let me check. I think everything is okay. Okay.
It's okay.
So, you're saying it's okay now?
Yeah, everything's fine.
Okay. So it's that story is in the 3 books.
Yeah.
So are those the only books that you've written, or you've written some more?
Again, I'm sorry, I didn't quite.
Have you written more books or only the trilogy? I have so.
Your accent and my ears are not working well.
Okay.
I have old ears.
Yeah, and let me try to make it somehow Chicaglish. So I'm saying, are those the only books that you've written, or you've written some others?
Written what?
Okay. Have you written more books other than just those 3?
Well, the next series is pretty well published now.
Okay.
So the next series is 4 books, and 3 of them have already been published again on Amazon.
Okay.
And the 4th book will be coming out in June.
Yeah.
And that's the follow-up. Again, Tony goes home, but can he come back? And that's the whole subject of the second series. He actually does come back.
Okay.
And has to, again, fight the evil Adjudicars, except by this time, she and the prince are getting in love, and they're really happy together. Oh. So it becomes a story of, it's a love story. It's a 7-volume love story.
And a story of hope, as I get it.
So it's really cool. And now the next series, which I've just begun, involves the rest of the planet. Okay. That is, they're on just one continent. And it's a small continent. Yeah. There's 3 other continents, big continents, and the bad guys are out there and trying desperately to get a hold of this particular planet. Yeah. And so now I have to essentially start all over. There's a whole new series of characters. There's all sorts of, and how does she get involved with them? So again, it's welcome to the author's dilemma. You've painted yourself into a corner. Now, how do you get out?
You have to find a way to get out of it.
So I'm doing it, but it's slowly, because this is going to be a struggle. The first 7 books were easy. Yeah. Now it's the struggle, because I have to start all over.
Okay, that's the way it goes. You'll make it. You'll make it. If Tony has come that far, you'll make it.
Yeah, it's there. It's boiling, and this is one of the things about writers. We talk about writer's block, and one of the things that I keep rediscovering, is that the story is here, but it's going to take a while to cook. It's not that you can immediately just jump into it and start on it, and it's a wonderful book. And again, depending on your process, there are those people who will do it by outlines. There are those people who do it by a series of pictures. And there are those people like me that just sort of sit there and slowly let it cook, and then you begin to write. Well, what I do is I write vignettes. So I've got little stories that I'm writing about some of the characters that are going to come in. And some of the characters will make it into the book, and some of the stories will make it into the book. Others will not. And so it's a matter right now as I'm gathering all of my ingredients, sort of like a cook. And what ingredients will I use to make this beautiful dinner? Okay. And it's going to be, of course, a 3, 4, maybe 5 course dinner. Yeah. But how do I keep people involved? How do I keep them active? I've started them over here. Now I've got this new series. I'm starting a whole new group of people. How do I get people from the old books to the new books? And again, welcome to the club, right? That's every writer's dilemma.
Yeah.
You do run out of a particular character. Now, do you continue the character or do you start a whole new series? And in mine, the main character, the elf queen, has to become involved because she's the Supergirl. But it's a long story to get her involved. This is a completely different continent. There's, you know, it's the same differences between, let's say, North America and Europe. Again, it's a 3,000-mile ocean between them. And it's not easy to traverse because they don't have airplanes. This is a medieval world. They in the first world, they don't have horses. They don't have draft animals. And everyone walks. So can you imagine? There you are. You're in Europe right now. In order to go anywhere, you have to walk. Now, how far can you walk in a day? Well, not very far. And how do you prepare to walk from your city to the next city, which may be 50 miles away, 100 kilometers, let's say? Well, you have to get packed and you have to get ready and you have to have clothes, you have to have food, you have to have all of these things, and you travel. So how do you, as an author, speed it up fast enough so that the events can occur and they begin to mesh, and yet not destroy the very fact that you said there is no high-speed transportation? So this is going to be fun. It's just time. Well, again, we think back into the histories. How long did it take for information to flow back and forth from one country to another? Well, it was often a matter of months, maybe even years, before someone figured out, oh, something happened way over there, which has now affected me.
They had to send someone running.
Welcome to Thermopylae, right? Exactly. So we're having a lot of fun with this one.
So let's still go back a bit. What did you retire from?
Sorry?
What did you retire from?
Oh, I'm an educator. That's my doctorate is education, but my basic field is cognitive theory, and the whole idea of how do we think and how do we make decisions. And so I went into the area of critical thinking, which I prefer to actually call thinking critically. And I'm one of the experts in the field of thinking critically. How do you go through the process of figuring out what is true, what is not true, and thereby what actions should I take? Is the problem soluble? Is there a solution? That is there a way of me actually going from where I am to a specific point with an exact route, sort of like a computer program, getting from point A to point B? Or am I in a situation that there is no single answer? There's a whole bunch of different possibilities, but some of them are pretty good and some of them aren't pretty good, and you don't know what the ultimate solution is going to be. All you know is that every single course of action you take could be wrong. How do you figure out which has the highest probability of accomplishing the thing you want to accomplish? And also, how do you avoid all the pitfalls, these things that we know are complex errors in thinking? And so, again, such simple things as correlation, the difference between correlation and causation. There's a strong correlation between ladies' hemlines and the stock market. That is, as the hemlines go up, so does the stock market. As the hemlines go down, so does the stock market. Well, that, of course, is silly. There's no relationship there. No. At the same time, it's a correlation. So how do you separate those two? So that's been a huge process of mine, and trying to get more people educated in this way. But then I retired, and now I write books. I write lots of books.
I believe this has been a very great help for you, being an educator who is into critical thinking and then coming into writing, which calls for critically thinking about your characters and the way of flow of your books.
Oh yeah, sometimes I get too pedantic. That is, I get too much into teacher mode. At the same time, it's really important because the events are occurring over time and distance. So how do you correlate the experiences of one group of people with another group of people in order that sometime in the future they meet at the appropriate time and place.
Yeah.
Well, that's the part of the planning that I could do. I set up timelines so that I work backwards. They're supposed to be here. So now where do they go and how quickly can they come and what? So that takes a lot of involvement. And then also I have some major battle scenes.
Yeah.
I have huge wars going on. And I have to coordinate all of these armies beforehand and then figure out how to say it in words. It'd be beautiful if I could put it in a movie. And actually, that's a really good idea. My books would make a great movie. No, it couldn't be a movie. It would have to be one of these television things, these series that they put on. I guess it would have to be about 8, maybe 10 different episodes. But it's a huge book. I mean, if it was in a single book, it'd be like 450, 500 pages. Whoa. So that's a lot of pages. So again, things of Hollywood, they just, I love the way they mess things up. There's a perfectly good story out there. And if they just told the story in pictures and words, it would be great. But then they have to be creative and change it. And then you go, no, it's wrong. You missed the point.
Yes, I've had that ideology whereby they say that the movie will never be as good as the book.
That's true. Because amongst other things, your brain is operating at its own frequency. You see characters in your mind, and you see what they're doing and how they're interacting. But the moment it's on the screen, it's fixed. It can't be changed, and suddenly you go, oh, that isn't the way I envisioned it. And that's the first half. And then the second part is, so often they change it for dramatic purposes. But in the process, they make the story go all wrong. They just mess it up. And it can be in little ways. It can be in big ways. And sometimes it really causes huge problems when they make a small change, especially in a large book or in a series, because later on, that has consequences. This little event here has consequences way out here. And by changing this little thing, they mess this one up completely. And now they have to go all the way back. So,
let me ask you, now, you definitely have had quite a lot of experiences in life. In your writing, could you have drawn some of your personal experiences and brought them into the book?
My own experiences in?
Yeah.
Well, sort of. Obviously, I'm the hero. I'm the heroine in these books. I mean, she's redhead.
Yeah.
She's got green eyes and freckles. I mean, what else could you ask for?
Whoa, so it's you. It's definitely you.
And then the prince, I have a friend who's, again, in his late 50s. And he's sort of a gamer and that kind of thing. And he was sort of an inspiration as to the Tony character, not the Jill character. And then and then there are influences from other books. I mean, there really no new hero. Again, a hero is a person who's going to go into a difficult situation in order to try and clear it up and ameliorate it, knowing full well that they'll probably get killed. There's no good outcome for them, and they know it. So a hero goes into this situation to get it going and knows that this is terminal for them in one way or another. So standard. So you have to be aware of that, and the people that you're creating them, and it's fun. It really is trying to put all of these characters together. Now, in my books, I also have the additional problem that there are a very large number of characters. I would say in my first book, I probably have 50 or 60 characters.
Oh, those are many.
Oh, yes. Because there are armies which are involving people. She has her own tribe. She has clans. She meets people along the way who become fellow travelers with her. And there's good guys and there's bad guys, and there's kingdoms and there's dukedoms and there's all this stuff going on. So there's a lot of characters. And then there's also a lot of places.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I did is I created a map, which I needed for me in order to keep things square in my mind.
Yeah.
But I've offered that to all of my readers. So anyone who goes on to my JaraliiChronicles website can get the map, and also can get what's called a companion, which I thought, again, my readers would really need, which is all of the characters and how they're related to one another, all the places, the name places, the rivers, and the cities and that kind of thing. And the magical spells. There's a lot of magical spells that are being said, and they're often said in Elvish, right? Elvish, whatever that is. And it's just not English, that's for sure. And how it works. And so again, but just this companion is like 60 pages.
Oh.
So again, the complexity of the novel can really be disturbing to a reader unless you provide them with the materials they'll need to help understand and who's related to whom. And of course, as you've gone from book 1 to book 3, you could have forgotten some of the characters in book 1. And rather than go back to book 1, if you have this companion, you simply open it up and go, oh, yes, I remember him. Yes, okay, I'm ready to go.
Or you get to change some names along the way, and someone gets confused if you don't check back.
Recognize it. And then there's a lot of stories out there that have multiple characters. And it's really helpful to have a compendium of these characters to go back into. Look into some of the Tom Clancy books, look into even Lord of the Rings. There's that large area in the back of the 3rd book of all this stuff. And then, of course, there's the Silmarillion you could go back to as sort of as a compendium of Lord of the Rings. Where did all this stuff start? And all the big books have something along that line. And so I do.
Okay, good. Now, apart from the dilemma where you find yourself in a story and you don't know how to get out of there, which other challenges have you been facing as a writer? As a writer, which other challenges have you faced along the way?
My biggest challenge is time.
Yeah.
I would love to be writing more than I am. My biggest challenge is the marketing aspects. I really let's say I hate it, but it's not. It's such a dull and boring thing to do day in and day out. Yeah. Well, for instance, when I finish with our discussion here, I will go out into Facebook and I will go to about 20 different Facebook sites and place an ad for my book.
Okay.
And then I will go into Facebook, and I will answer all the notifications that have come through to me from all the other fellow authors, readers, that kind of thing, and answer all of them. I've skipped nothing. And by the time that I've done that, that's 3 or 4 hours right there. So, and it's not like I don't have anything else to do. I mean, there is this thing called life. There's sleep and food and things like that.
Definitely.
And so then I really only get about 4 hours a day to write. And that's disturbing in that in any book, an author gets their brain into the book and it begins to go, and pretty soon your fingers are going. And then, of course, you have to stop. Yeah. But getting restarted is hard. That's the 15 or 20 minutes that you're going, oh, where was I? What was my brain? Where was I thinking? Where was this character go? Yes. And it'd be best if I could start like right now. And begin and just go throughout the whole day. And to the point of exhaustion. Well, my first book, actually, that's what I did. It was Stream of Consciousness. And I wrote a 500-page book in a matter of 3 months. And my hands were so sore that I had to walk around with ice cubes just to keep my fingers going. It was just, I hurt myself. But again, it was just flowing. And I couldn't let it stop because if you stop. So again, that's the condition I'd like to get back into with a new book, but I just can't. So I keep asking other people if they would help. Looking for a publisher, looking for someone to assist. But That's typical of all authors. I'm not saying that it's just me.
Yeah.
That's how it works. That's what this business is all about.
Yeah.
If you look at Amazon, there's something on the order of 3 million books out there. And so there's 3 billion people and 3 million books. So that means everyone has 1,000 books to read. Okay. So have you read your first 1,000 books yet? Whoa. I haven't.
No. I'm nowhere near.
And so how do you get through this huge morass of people? Is just how do you pick out a particular tree in the middle of a forest? And that's what every author is asking. He's asking readers to find me. And there's a million people out there going, me. And how does a reader know who to pick? Hopefully, a program like this will help people decide, well, why don't I look up Joanne Reid? She's got some interesting books. But again, how many other people are you going to be interviewing? You're going to be interviewing a lot, right?
Yeah,
sure.
Definitely.
That's what you do.
Yeah,
and that's your business. So we're all there. We're all competing, pretty much in the same field, and it's very hard for any individual author to push the string. You know, you can't push that string. The reader can pull that string anytime they want. Say, I'll take that. Push the book on them. You can. So the only thing you can do is say, I'm here. Please pay attention to me, please.
Yes. That's what you do, and that's why we are doing it. But I believe it can never happen otherwise. You cannot sit at home or sleep all day and expect that something is going to come your way.
And of course, the other aspect of it is if you keep at it long enough, sooner or later, you'll become an overnight success.
And an overnight success is a success that has been made over 20 years in pushing, in trying, in attempting things. Yeah. Now, one question. Where do you view yourself 5 years from now?
Oh, well, hopefully. You will be interviewing the world famous author of this fantastic series of epic fantasies, and you, of course, will be that well-known personality who's asked to be on every program because of your wit and charm, and we will then chuckle back and forth at where we were just 5 years ago. Honestly, I'm retired. I enjoy my writing, and I have frustrations, but I'll probably be doing pretty much the same thing. And again, I get involved with some other stuff. I'm involved, for instance, with what's called Sidewalk Science, which we do every second week on Saturdays. Yeah. And you can look us up on Facebook. We're out there. And this is a group of 5 or 6 eminent scientists who all sit around and talk about important things that have happened in the world of science in the past fortnight. And one of us always has a program that we try to put on of interest to everyone. And we have a lot of call-ins and people who ask questions of science. And so I hope that will become a larger program. I'm very disturbed by the lack of scientific knowledge and scientific capacities in the average person. Most people, when you say the word science, they freeze on the inside and go, oh my God, and run away. Whereas, in fact, science is looking at the world. How does the world work? How do people work? How do birds work? How do planets work? How does that work? Oh my goodness. And so it's an exploration of the universe, of which we are a small, tiny, itty bitty part. And so this is the greatest exploration there can be. It's the biggest story there can be. How did the universe come into existence? What is it doing? When is it going to end? And what's happening on this tiny, tiny little speck in the middle of nowhere called Earth that we think is important? And so we discuss all of these things. So please, in fact, this Saturday at 2:00 Central Time, the 6 of us will get together and we'll have another discussion of properties of science. So Science Sunday, Sidewalk Science. So I would hope that becomes a larger part of what's going on.
And
so
I believe definitely you're going to come out with a book from those meetings also.
Well,
That's what I'm thinking.
Science books I leave to a lot of other people. I have no particular expertise outside of the area of cognition. And I've written some books in that area. I've written a lot of articles in that area. I'm a well-known person in this field. But in terms of the basic science, I leave it to my compatriots. In fact, John Doughty is putting up another satellite.
Okay.
Mike Albrow is trying to get a new experiment done at CERN. You know, these are the kind of people with whom we were dealing. They're world famous, marvelously skilled scientists. I leave it to them.
Okay.
They're fine. I can be the moderator and smile and wave and go, wow, that's cool.
Yet again, you can never do everything. So you've got to leave some things to other people who can do them better.
These are kinds of skills at this area. I don't do that.
Yeah.
I will come up with the ideas of how to educate children in these different fields. And that's part of the educational process. Is how do we figure out the best way to teach children what's going on without boring them to death?
Yeah.
A 6-year-old has a wild imagination, just going crazy, just wonderful. And so part of teaching them science is, no, everything that you imagined is not true. You can have this wonderful imagination. You can explore the world of imagination. It's called fantasy. It's called fiction. Enjoy. Write it if you'd like. But then again, it's the real world. And here's how the real world works. And so the child can do both. And hopefully you can present it in such a way that the child will go, oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, dinosaurs. Dinosaurs were the coolest thing in the whole world. Now, all what we knew about dinosaurs was so limited that we got a lot of things wrong. We thought that some things were true, which weren't.
Why not?
Now, some 70 years later, we have a much greater knowledge of what's going on. And the depictions we have now of dinosaurs are very, very different from what they were in, let's say, the 1930s, 40s, and 50s. Which, for instance, we had the thing called Brontosaurus, which was living in a swamp. Well, first off, there was no such thing as Brontosaurus. That it ended up, there was a different body and a different head. And they didn't live in swamps. They lived sort of like elephants do on a plain and in the heavy forest. We didn't know about, we had things like T-Rex sitting up like a kangaroo on its tail. And discovered, no, it isn't how it worked. They were sort of flat like a chicken, and the tail stuck out the back, and so they could run and move fairly quickly for a huge animal that they did. So how do you educate people and maintain interest through, let's say, high school and beyond into college? Yeah, that's the kinds of things that interest me.
Yeah, wonderful. So yes, and the movie, I see the movie you talked about. Maybe it is gonna be out by then.
Marvelous, and I would love to have someone who actually knows about this kind of stuff talk with me about it. This is a massive set of works which would work extremely well. If we look in the recent past, there have been some marvelous things on Netflix and these other program areas that have been gigantic books, with lots of characters, lots of interactions, lots of things happening. And I have that book, and it would be, and it is pretty much set up so that it could be done. Again, the gal who plays the lead part would have to be a big athlete. I was thinking there are a couple that would come to mind. Well, I'm trying to think of the Russian tennis player who's retired, Anna Kournikova.
Okay.
And then other athletes of that kind. But she'd have to be a strong athletic woman. Which, again, wouldn't that be nice to have a strong athletic woman playing the lead role? We don't have many strong, powerful women out there, and that would be really, really neat. So something for the women of this world to look up to and go, oh, I don't have to be just bearing children. That it doesn't my only responsibility. I can be a person. I can do stuff. I can look like we had a president, look at the vice president of the United States right now. I mean, a strong, powerful woman. Yes,
she is.
We need some more strong, powerful women in this world.
Yes,
I think she would change our world considerably to have more strong, powerful women as role models.
That would be good. That would be good. They need to rise up because you.
Just me.
Yes, and you need to call them up. You need to, encourage.
Back in recent history, there have been several women who have been leaders of their countries, and we can look at Great Britain, we can look at Israel, we can look at Germany, and these have been powerful women who have done a really fine job for their country. I'm not saying that they were perfect, because there's no such thing, but they did a marvelous thing in their country. And I think that we're more like that. I think our world would change considerably. Guys, I hate to tell you guys, but you really like war. You really, really do. And it's destructive. So you shouldn't be doing this. Really.
But I've seen some women go to war, so.
Well, I think one of the interesting things is when a woman takes power, the guys think that all of a sudden that they can take advantage of it. And just because we're women doesn't mean we don't have a backbone. and every child was raised with a strong woman going, no, no, no. And when mom speaks, I don't care if you're 50 or 60 or 70 years old. When mom speaks, what do? Oh, yes, mother. Yes, mother. Yes, mother.
Everyone
Yes, mother.
Everyone stays still.
You go home, you're a big successful person, you go home and suddenly you're 6 and mom is telling you, now, did you eat your breakfast this morning?
Yes, Mama, I did eat my breakfast.
Yes,
yeah. So yes, we were talking about the aspiring authors. Maybe you can sum up a little bit of those do's and don'ts that you would give every aspiring writer or author in this case.
I think my first piece of advice would be know your language.
Yes.
It's critical. And again, we're so used to speaking in the vernacular. And when you write, you can't write in the vernacular. You have to write in your language. You have to control your diction. You have to know the words. You have to know how they're spelled. You have to know how a sentence is put together. You have to know how paragraphs are put together. You have to know all these separations. You have to know how to put conversation in and how to interplay between characters and build that up. So the first thing is learn your language. It's very, very difficult. English is probably one of the worst because ours is a polyglot language. We don't have a single root language. Greek has a single root, and so in that regard, it's far easier. I'm not sure, you're originally from what part of Africa?
I'm from Kenya.
So you have several languages in Kenya.
Sure.
And depending upon the tribe, you could be unintelligible to a person living 20 miles away.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have to know your language, and if you're writing a book, now you have to have a language which is larger. So in your mind, you have to translate from your local language to a larger language, such as English, which a large number of people can read rather than a small group of people. And so you have to know all of these rules, and you have to apply them. And don't think that you are good at it, because you're not. This is why editors are important. This is why other people are important. Now, editors, I hate to say it, but editors are really important people. They're very, very, very expensive. And this is a huge problem for all writers. A book of 100,000 words could cost $1,000 for you to have edited by a decent editor. Now, this is a lot of money. And so you have to think about, or you have to do a plan B. Now, there are many plan Bs. None of them are as good as a really good editor, but having multiple people read your book ahead of time is helpful.
As mentioned before.
Yes, many people, say 8 or 10, and have them feed it back. Read it aloud to another person. That is, you read it aloud to another person. You hear your words, and if there's a problem there, you're going to hear it. Also, the other person is going to hear it.
Okay.
And they're going to feed back to you immediately. So these are some of the less expensive ways. Now, there are several programs out there. I think of Pro Writer's Aid as being one of them, which is an excellent program for going through all of this stuff and doing a computerized editing. Now, again, this is not perfect. It has all sorts of complications that you will see when you use it. At the same time, it really is a good guide, and you take it very, very seriously when you object to what it is doing. Have a good reason in your mind.
Yes.
Finally, when it gets around to the actual publishing process, study, again, let's take Amazon as an example. They have a compendium, a huge thing about how to put your book together and how to submit it. Study it.
Yeah.
Do what they tell you to do. Put it down. And so if you're going to have it in the form of an ebook, it's relatively easy. There are some rules and it's relatively easy, but the moment you say, "Oh, I want it in print as well," now you really are going to have to follow their rules in great detail. There's a new series that they're talking about doing hardcover, which I am involved with, but you know, I'm one of many. And again, what is the requirements? Follow the rules. Don't think you can get away with something. You can. And when they tell you, for instance, that the cover isn't big enough, they will also tell you you have to increase it by X many millimeters. Okay, you go back to the guys who are doing your cover and tell them, make it bigger, and they will go, fine, no problem. Again, cover is extremely important. Choose your cover. Now you can go out on places like Fiverr and find very, very large numbers of people out there who will do covers for you. And you can have them compete against one another for your particular book. Also, the blurb, the thing on the back of the book, you know, every book has a thing on the back which tells you about it. That's the blurb. Yes, exactly. And this is your synopsis where you're telling the potential reader what the book is and why they should be buying it. You've got to strike their interest. Now, this is really, really hard to do. As you know, Tony, trying to write that blurb is as hard as writing the rest of the book. You've got to put your mind into it. You've got to really think about it because you're trying to condense everything down and add this extra added incentive to say, this is why you should be reading my book rather than someone else's. And that is hard to do. So this is really a profession. This is something that you don't just jump into willy-nilly. This is something that you really have to put your mind into, just like any other profession. And treat it as a profession. Even if you're doing it part-time. This is your alternate profession. And when you're retired and you've gone from your major, whatever it was that you did in life, now you're sitting back there and you and your computer. This now becomes your fun and games. What do? You end up spending lots of money. Many of these advertising things don't work. You will be terribly frustrated. Welcome to the club. We're the frustrated writers guild of the world. and there's little or nothing you can do about it other than continue plugging at it, do more and more and more and more. And yes, it will take away from the time that you should be writing. And that's true. If you can interest a publisher in doing so, that would be wonderful. That would be really great. Don't go with a vanity. I'm sorry, but to all the vanity publishers out there and the so-called hybrids out there, you should not be paying a publisher to publish your book. Publisher be paying you to publish the book. Theirs is a money-making proposition. You are not. You're just a person. They should be paying you. And there's no guarantees of success. Please be aware. You will not be an overnight success. The likelihood of you selling 1 million books is zero. Just understand that. You're not going to. There's a lot of really, really good writers out there writing in exactly the same genre you're writing in. And you're in the middle of a herd. You were a zebra in the middle of the Serengeti Plains and you're migrating. Now, the lion is out there. The lion is there. He's waiting.
Yeah.
He's going to get one of you. So just like that herd, there you are with a million other writers, and the reader is going to pick one of you to read.
Yeah.
He's not going to read all of you. And why does he pick you? Well, it could be that the person has read your books before. It could be that there's a recommendation from a friend.
Yeah.
It could be that there's an article he saw or she saw on Facebook.
Yeah.
They could have been out on Book Place, and there was this really neat advertising. Oh, why don't I get that book? Well, and then you look it up on Amazon and you can read it for free online. This is online. Or you can buy it. And what does it cost? Like $2, $3? Come on. This is not a big deal.
Yeah.
It's not like you're spending the national treasury.
Sure.
And so you get to the point of total frustration that you're not being read by more people. Well, fine, go on to other sites. Go wide. Amazon isn't the only one. You can go to Ingram. You can go to Lulu. You can go to a lot of other places to publish your book.
Yeah.
And so do it. Just jump out there and you know, if you want other people to read your book, you have to put it in front of them in every different area. So they may not be on Facebook. They may never see your ad on Facebook. So you have to put it in the areas where they exist.
Yeah, sure.
So advice from an old person.
Wonderful. That's quite much that you've shared with us, and definitely someone will need to look at your book. So you're gonna share with us your links and also the science thing that you talked about. You're gonna share with us the link so that they can follow it up. You never know. You could be having some interested people who are going to follow you, read the books that you've shared, and even join you when you are meeting in the science club.
So I came,
yeah,
I saw, I conquered. Now, if you haven't heard of that one before, Julius Caesar said that when he returned from one of his campaigns and they asked him, how'd it go? And he said, I came, I saw, I conquered. And that's my 3 books. And that's also the story of the prophecy. Yeah. Prophecy is also 3 couplets. And so the first book is the first couplet, the second book is the second couplet, and the third book is the third couplet. Of the and we have prophecy in there as well as epic, fantasy, romance, gamelet, prophecy. It's really cool.
Oh, cool. So we're going to read them. And yes, thank you very much. It's been a wonderful experience being with you here. And
this was so great. I really appreciate being on your program. Yeah. And I wish you continued good luck and everything. You're going to have some fun.
Thank you. It's been fun. This 1 hour has been quite fun, and I look forward to several others ahead.
Does this mean that you're going to go out to Amazon and buy my books?
Too, right?
Are you going to go on Amazon and buy my books?
I'm not promising, but definitely someone is going to see this and is going to. I am not so much into fiction. That's what I was sharing with one of the people who have been on my book. I mean, the one who wrote my foreword. He's just came into Book Place, and I was telling him I don't read so much fiction. I'm so much into non-fiction. Specifically personal development, self-help. That's my area. So I may not promise, but I know someone could be interested in going and checking your books out.
All right. Well, thank you again, and have a wonderful day.
Yeah, have a wonderful day too. And maybe sometime in the near future, we're going to get back together.
Absolutely. I'm here. How about you?
And I'm wishing you all success in everything.
Everyone that's watching this will go out and purchase my book. So in 6 months or so, we'll come back and say, well, it was all because of you, Tony.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So all those who are watching, all those who are going to watch the recorded version of this episode, thank you very much. And I'm wishing you all success. All the readers, please pick our books.
Well,
about books and have a good day. Bye. Bye. Until next time. Bye.